Jan Logie.
The Green Party loves New Zealand, which is why we want a cleaner, smarter and fairer New Zealand and Social Development Department. The Green Party and our MPs are absolutely passionate about making New Zealand a great place to grow up for all of our children. And when 1 in 4 children live in poverty in this country, something is going seriously wrong. The Greens have been calling for action on child poverty since 1999. And we will keep on calling for action and proposing solutions until we eliminate the problem. But this isn't about us. This is about New Zealand. And over the last 3 years, along with most other New Zealanders in the country, we've been listening to the Children's Commissioner, academics, doctors, community advocates, parents and children themselves, asking us to put children first. We've been watching the documentaries along with the country, the news programs, reading the reports from the expert advisory group on child poverty, the thousands of submissions on the Green Paper and the White Paper and the Vulnerable Children's Bill, as well as the all too numerous media stories and opinion pieces, calling for us in this House to address inequality and end child poverty. New Zealand, we will continue to listen and carry your voices for our children into this place until we create a country where every child thrives. With the country, we've been seeing the pictures of empty school lunch boxes, of mouldy houses, of children without shoes or raincoats. We've read recently about the young mother and her newborn baby who had to live in a car for 2 days after they were discharged from hospital because there was no housing available for them. And like the rest of the country, I assume, we've fumed and at times cried over the fact that more than one child a week in this country is dying of poverty-related illness in this country that we love. And at times the stories feel endless and heartbreaking. And how much more it must feel like that for those who are living through it. The cruelty is real, but it's not the cruelty of an individual. It's the cruelty of a government who has chosen to prioritise token efforts over addressing the real problems of poverty-level benefits, low wages and substandard housing. But of course we're being told that they're investing in our people, helping them into work. Well, last week I met with some students and tutors on a work and income mandated course to find out how that was going for them. The tutor talked to me about her concern that a mother on her course had had her benefit cut in half for missing 3 days of the course when it turned out she'd had to go with her baby after it had had a seizure into hospital and hadn't had enough money on her phone to be able to inform anyone of that fact. So their income had been cut in half while they were stuck in hospital. And I heard from a student about how they'd previously had their benefits sanctioned entirely for missing an appointment because their public transport was running late. This is happening now in our country. And the sheer reality of being poor means there are times when some people can't afford even to meet the expectations of work and income to be able to get their income support. And everyone in that room of about 20 students with their tutor talked about not being able to afford to heat their house or put proper food on their table. The young ones even talked about not being able to afford the $40 to buy a blanket to compensate for the lack of heating in their house. So much for a wraparound service, so much for supporting people, so much for investment. And it doesn't have to be this way. It's not even about throwing money at the problem. Mr. Chair.
Jan Logie.
It's not even about throwing money at the problem, as this government suggests we want to do, and to leave people stuck in inequality. It's actually, even at the most basic level, it's about ensuring people get access to their legal entitlements. Surely, at the absolute minimum, that is the job of this government. And yet when we've asked the Minister in this House, how do you explain these increasing stories that we are hearing from the community of people being denied their legal entitlements, her response was, well, for every one story you give me, I can give you 10 of people who are getting the entitlements they're eligible for. Well, the basic point is everyone is entitled to those services, and it is this government's job to ensure that people are able to get enough money to put food on the table. That is what we consider a social security system. And it's not in any way okay to say, well, these 10 people are getting it. Sorry about those ones. That is not doing your job. That is not providing even the bare minimum of what this country has agreed on, let alone what is, I believe, a building consensus from academics, from community organisations, from people working across our health sectors, our education sectors, our community sectors, who are all saying there needs to be more. There needs to be a living income for these families, and particularly for our children, because we know if we don't invest in those early years in a child's life, then we are robbing them of their potential. And that is something that every single person in this country will have to bear the consequences of. And I really do want to speak just a little bit to the fact around the perception that this is too expensive to do. And this isn't an issue just about this government and this estimates. It is about a framework that was put in place previously that has been consciously continued by this government, where there has been a decision to prioritise getting these families into work as the way out of poverty for these families. And I think that we've missed the fact of the interaction between work and income support, and that there is an interaction between those two things. And I'd like to point out that the government currently is spending more on family work tax credits for families working 20 hours a week than what they are on the income support system. The analysis by the Child Poverty Action Group showed up that, say, somebody coming off the DPB into paid work 20 hours a week would be getting, on top of their income, a minimum family tax credit of $22,000 a year, plus the in-work tax credit of $3,000 a year. So that's over $25,000 a year for that family earning less than, working less than 20 hours a week. What they would get on the DPB would be $15,000. And so the government's paying a lot more for that group. And the problem with that is, because it's great for people to be able to work if that's appropriate for their family and they're still able to look after their children, but this is a system that creates a disincentive for those employers to pay anything more than the minimum wage, because it would take, at the minimum wage, somebody who's working the 20 hours a week would have to work an additional 17 hours before being any better off financially. So what employer is going to pay somebody above the minimum wage if it's not going to give them anything more in the hand? Basically, those employers aren't going to do that. And that doesn't affect just that one person stuck on the minimum wage. It affects all other workers in New Zealand who are trying to get better conditions. So what government, when they tell us it's all about workers, the pathway out of poverty, actually,
What this is doing is entrenching people into poverty. And when they took away the training incentive allowance for parents to be able to do higher level study, to be able to get a chance of getting into that higher wage bracket of work, we saw the lie of it.
Carol Beaumont.
Mr Chair, Ministry of Social Development. I looked at their website and it says that the ministry's there to help people be successful in their